Today, NECAC held its 19th annual Tri-State Housing Summit in Hannibal. Missouri State Representative Lewis Riggs spoke about looking for opportunities to convert older buildings, such as schools, into living spaces. Officials say the goal is to create a partnership to combat the national housing crisis, and that one main topic was how the housing market is impacting area economic development.
We've seen that housing is an important issue, and in all income-based housing, it's really a workforce issue. When we have people that come to the area that can't find suitable housing, they can't find housing that they can afford, it often means that they're going to look elsewhere.
Well, 14-year-old Xavier Richardson was a surprise visitor at the summit. The incoming QHS freshman said that he was interested in learning more about the housing issues and wants to make a difference.